Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome. We are just joining it live. Secretary Kerry, Joe Biden. Why do I have an echo? And Xi Jinping. So I saw it coming on and I figured we're going to cover it anyway. So why don't we just jump on as we're starting to go? So figure out where I'm echoing from. Give me a moment. There it is. All right, much better. Yeah, I just gave the whole explanation. We just happened to catch Biden as he was coming out with President Xi Jinping because there was rain in the outside setup, so they covered it up and apparently didn't want to get wet, so they moved it inside. Took a little bit of time and happened to just catch it at the right time. So figured why not? Hey Daza, what's up, Neo? Hey Dogma. We can only hope, Jason, but thank you, sir, for becoming a Meat Market member. We are I maybe. So this is a press conference of Xi Jinping and President Joseph Robinette Biden. This is live. It was just starting to happen. They just had a bilateral meeting. We just saw Secretary Kerry, Secretary Buttigieg, and several other cabinet members leave, and that's kind of where we're at right now. So we're just waiting for them to take part in this press conference. Should be momentarily. It was supposed to be earlier, but there was some weather, inclement weather, so it got pushed back. And I said, "Well, hell, I'm half ready to go. Why don't we just go for it?" So well, while we're still waiting for them, I thought there'd be a little bit more. Apparently, Xi Jinping did not fall down the stairs when he landed in America earlier, but here's footage of that. That is incredible. I'm sorry, buddy, but that's great. That's so great. I'm sorry, Dazzer. I'm sorry. Yes. Hey, man bun. Thanks for being a member for 4 months of the meat market. Thank you, thank you. We will. So there's him meeting with Gavin Newsom, getting off the aircraft. This is unprecedented. This is brand new. To have a hostile foreign power on our soil is kind of odd, if we're being honest. So yeah, I don't. There's a lot going on here. A lot of history. We'll go back to the press conference and hope that it is soon. It should be imminent. Joe's either getting a nappy change or got lost on his way out. So, well, they got to make sure that clone the chin is appropriately affixed to the bottom of his face, so they don't have another embarrassing airplane debacle. One of the 7, we'll see, but he should be out. It is imminent. So we're still waiting on Joseph Robinette Biden. Looks like Secret Service is coming out. Hey, Linda. Hey, Ghostry. Hey, Tits. No, I don't trust any of them either. This is a pretty building. There's somewhere in California. I don't exactly know where in California. I know it was about to rain. And that's why they moved it inside. It was originally planned for an outdoor event, and the previous footage shows them being outdoors, covering the outdoors, and then so on and so forth, blah, blah, blah. So, we should be imminent. It should be any moment. This is live. We are doing it live. There is Corrine, stunning and brave. Jean-Pierre, stunning and brave. So stunning, so brave. So stunning and brave. I'm happy to call her whatever we call her, because she is stunning and brave. No, I don't trust any of these people. I don't like what's going on here. This seems shady as shit. Like, I don't know why we have such a spectacle for a foreign leader of a hostile foreign nation. That just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why it's happening. I don't know why it's accurate. So we are just waiting for Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping. Still waiting on President Xi and President Biden. This whole thing, I mean, I read the talking points around it. I have no idea why the hell we're hosting a Chinese summit in the United States. I don't know why we're catering to Xi Jinping. There's some interesting images and videos coming out. We'll get to those after the press conference. Like I said, I really there we go. Now we have I'll let it run and let them speak, because it seems that we have an individual now. But he looks lost as shit. Like he just lost Joe Biden. He might have just lost Joe Biden. Never mind, I'll keep talking while we're waiting. I don't know why we're catering to them so hard. And some of the pictures look directly like something out of Tiananmen Square. It does not look like an American city or a hostile foreign nation that's visiting. So 2 minutes. So we got a 2-minute warning. So we'll see Presidents Xi Jinping and President Joseph Robinette Biden in 2 minutes. So that gives me nothing to talk about for the next 2 minutes. So I hope everybody's doing well. What's up, Josh Chandler? There we go. There's a good segue. Hey, Mystic. Apparently we had one more diaper change. One more to make sure he's fresh and clean. That's important. That's the kind of shit you want in a leader. Fresh and clean. So we'll just wait for Joe. Ghost Nappy. Yeah, Nappy is diaper. Nappy is British for diaper. Diaper. I have no idea what's on the table for this press conference. I have no idea what they intend on discussing. None of it's been released to the media or anywhere where I've seen. Again, this is just a very odd. This is very odd in so many levels. Like this is not a normal course of action for an American leader with a foreign hostile power to invite them on such an extravagant diplomatic mission. So, and we have Joe. So I'm gonna let you guys
watch. There's people in town. Please Have a seat. As you know, I just concluded several hours of meetings with President Xi, and I believe they were some of the most constructive and productive discussions we've had. I've been meeting with President Xi since both of us were vice president over 10 years ago. Our meetings have always been candid and straightforward. We haven't always agreed, but they've been straightforward. And today, build on the groundwork we laid over the past several months of high-level diplomacy between our teams. We've made some important progress, I believe. First, I'm pleased to announce that after many years of being on hold, we are restarting cooperation between the United States and PRC on counter-narcotics. In 2019, you may remember, China took action to greatly reduce the amount of fentanyl shipped directly from China to the United States. But in the years since that time, the challenge has evolved from finished fentanyl to fentanyl chemical ingredients and pill presses, which are being shipped without control. And by the way, some of these pills are being inserted in other drugs.
You don't need to do that.
A lot of people are dying. More people in the United States between the ages of 18 to 49 die from fentanyl than from guns, car accidents, or any other cause, period. So today, with this new understanding, we're taking action to significantly reduce the flow of precursor chemicals and pill presses from China to the Western Hemisphere. It's going to save lives, and I appreciate President Xi's commitment on this issue. President Xi and I tasked our teams to maintain a policy and law enforcement coordination going forward to make sure it works. I also want to thank the bipartisan congressional delegation to China, led by Leader
Don't trust China. China is asshole.
For supporting this effort so strongly. Secondly, and this is critically important, we're reassuming military-to-military contacts, direct contacts. As a lot of you press know who follow this, that's been cut off, and it's been very worrisome. That's how accidents happen, misunderstandings. So we're back to direct.
Wait, I didn't. No, I didn't want to jump in, but we're sharing military intelligence with fucking China.
On either side can cause real trouble with a country like China or any other major country. And so I think we're made real progress there as well. And thirdly, we're going to get our experts together to discuss risk and safety issues associated with artificial intelligence. As many of you who travel with me around the world, almost everywhere I go, every major leader wants to talk about the impact of artificial intelligence. These are tangible steps in the right direction to determine what's useful and what's not useful, what's dangerous and what's acceptable. Moreover, there are evidence of cases that I've made all along. The United States will continue to compete vigorously with the PRC, but will manage that competition responsibly so it doesn't veer into conflict or accidental conflict. And where it's possible, where our interests coincide, we're going to work together like we did on fentanyl. That's what the world expects of us. The rest of the world expects, not just in people in China and the United States, but the rest of the world expects that of us. And that's what the United States is going to be doing. Today, President Xi and I also exchanged views on a range of regional and global issues, including Russia's refusal and brutal war to stop the war and brutal war of aggression against Ukraine and conflict in Gaza. And as I always do, I raised areas where the United States has concerns about the PRC's actions, including detained and exit-banned U.S. citizens, human rights, and coercive activities in the South China Sea. We discussed all three of those things. I gave them names of individuals that we think are being held, and hopefully we can get them released as well. No agreement on that. No agreement on that. I also stressed the importance of peace and stability in the Taiwan Straits. It's clear.
So, of course, no agreement on the things that really actually matter.
Beijing's non-market economic practices and disadvantage American businesses and workers, and then we'll continue to address them. And I named what I thought a number of those were. I welcome the positive steps we've taken today, and it's important for the world to see that we're implementing the approach.
Seems like
the
it.
Best traditions of American diplomacy. We're talking to our competitors, and the key and just talking, just being blunt with one another, so there's no misunderstanding. as a key element to maintaining global stability and delivering for the American people.
Nobody understands a
In the months
word you
ahead,
fucking say,
we're going to
Joe.
continue to preserve and pursue high-level diplomacy at the PRC.
Nobody understands a
both
goddamn word
directions.
you say, Joe.
Keep the lines of communication open, including between President Xi and me. He and I agreed that each one of us could pick up the phone, call directly, and would be heard immediately. And that's, now I'd like to be able to take some questions, if I may. And I'm told that Dimitri of the Financial Times has the first question.
Thank you. And as an Irishman, I apologize for bringing the rain.
Well, holy God, I wouldn't have called on you if I'd known that. No, I'm teasing. Go ahead, fire away, Dimitri.
President Biden, given that America is playing a key role in two major global crises, in Ukraine and in Gaza, does that alter your previous commitment to defend Taiwan from any Chinese military action? And did Xi Jinping outline the conditions under which China would attack Taiwan?
Look,
He's taking questions. That's surprising, but they're obviously taking the ones that he already pre-decided he was going to have asked. So this is all just a smoke show.
China policy, and that I'm not going to change that. That's not going to change, and so that's about the extent to which we discussed it. Next question, sorry, was Bloomberg.
It appears, among other issues, that your agreement with President Xi over fentanyl will require a lot of trust and verification to ensure success, curbing those drug flows. I'm wondering, after today and considering all that you've been through in the past year, would you say, Mr. President, that you trust President Xi? And secondly, if I could, on Taiwan, you and your administration officials have warned President Xi and China about interference in the upcoming elections. I'm wondering, what would the consequences be if they do, in fact, interfere in the election?
Well, I had that discussion with him too, made it clear I didn't expect any interference, any at all. And we had that discussion as he was leaving. Look, do I trust you? I trust but verify, as the old saying goes. That's where I am. And, we're in a competitive relationship, China and the United States. But my responsibility is to make this rational and manageable, so it doesn't result in conflict. That's what I'm all about. That's what this is about. To find a place where we can come together and where we find mutual interest that, but most importantly, from my perspective, that are interested in the American people. That's what this is about, and that's exactly what we'll do. We're in a situation where we agreed that fentanyl and its precursors will be curbed substantially, and the pill presses. That's a big
Nope, they'll
movement.
probably increase the
They're
supply
doing
there,
that.
Light Rain.
And
What's up, buddy?
by the way, I guess I shouldn't identify where it occurred, but John, I know two people near where I live. Their kids literally, as I said, strange, they woke up dead. Someone had inserted in, whether the young man did or not, inserted in a drug he was taking, fentanyl. Again, I hope you don't have any experience with knowing anyone, but this is the largest killer, people in that age category. And, I guess the other thing I think is most important is that since I spent more time with President Xi than any world leader has, just because we were vice presidents. His president was President Hu. I'm not making a joke. President Hu and President Obama thought we should get to know one another. Wasn't appropriate for the president of the United States to be dealing with the vice president. So we met, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was 68 hours of just face-to-face, just us and a simultaneous interpreter. So I think I know the man. I know his modus operandi. He's been, we have disagreements. He has a different view than I have on a lot of things, but he's been straight. I don't mean that it's good, bad, or indifferent. It's just been straight. And we, as I said, the thing that I find most assuring is he raised, and I fully agree, that either one of us have any concern Mr. Ambassador, any concern about anything between our nations or happening in our region, we should pick up the phone and call one another, and we'll take the call. That's an important progress. I am embarrassed. I think it's CBS, but I can't remember who is CBS. I'm sorry.
Mr. President, Judge Jing.
Sorry.
He literally has the
apologize.
list again in front of him. He literally has the
Can
list of fucking
stress-
questions and the people who can ask them in front of him yet
Not-
again. He just read off from it.
The past years, there have been 180 incidents of Chinese aggression against aircraft and, of course, ramped up military activity in South China. If
Look at that
does
man.
not count,
Like, is
during-
that who the
Then
hell
what,
on this planet is like, yeah, that's who I want for my
warning
president?
against that?
Well, first of all, none of it did end up in a conflict, number one. Number two, you may recall I did a few little things like get the Quad together, allow Australia to have access to new submarines, moving in the direction of working with the Philippines. So our actions speak louder than our words. He fully understands.
Question about ID rating on the ocean. As it,
Like, probably skip so they can censor what the fuck's coming out of it.
that is there. This week, you also said that we must protect hospitals. So when you weigh the target against the number of civilians by the hospital, is the operation underway just?
Well, look, we did discuss this, by the way. But we can't let it get out of control. Here's the situation. You have a circumstance where the first war crime is being committed by Hamas by having their headquarters, their military, hidden under a hospital. And that's a fact. That's what's happened. Israel did not go in with large number of troops, did not raid, did not rush everything down. They've gone in, and they've gone in with their soldiers carrying weapons.
Oh,
for
now we're
crimes.
gonna whitewash the Israel
They
conflict.
were told, let me be precise. We've discussed the need for them to be incredibly careful. You have a circumstance where you know there is a fair number of Hamas terrorists. Hamas has already said publicly that they plan on attacking Israel again, like they did before. Do everything, cutting babies'
This man's
heads off
making
to
me want to
burning wo-
sleep.
Burning
Like,
women
yeah,
and
hell, I
children
could take a
alive.
nap.
And
He's not
so
saying
the
anything that's
idea
worth
that
listening
they're going
to.
to just stop and not do anything is not
Holy
realistic.
hell.
This is not the carpet bombing. This is a different thing. They're going through these tunnels. They're going in the hospital. And if you notice, I was mildly preoccupied today. I apologize. I didn't see everything. But what I did see, whether I haven't had it confirmed yet, I am asked my team to answer the question. But what happened is they're also bringing in incubators. We're bringing in other means to help the people in the hospital. And they've given the doctors and, I'm told, the doctors and nurses and the personnel an opportunity to get out of harm's way. So this is a different story than I believe what was occurring before the indiscriminate bombing. What do you got? Washington Post. I think that's right.
Mr.
Oh, there you are. Sorry, I couldn't see in the light.
Mr. President, Israel's war in Gaza, more than 11,000 Palestinians just for a month. and
Holy
created-
shit,
You're
fix the
breaking
mic.
up. I didn't.
No shit. So was the last one, and you had the question written down, but you can't
Israel's
make it
war
look
in
like you
Gaza
didn't.
has killed more than 11,000 Palestinians just over a month and created a humanitarian disaster. Israeli officials have said this war could take months or even years. Have you communicated to Prime Minister Netanyahu any sort of deadline or time frame for how long you are willing to support Israel in this operation? Are you comfortable with the operation going on indefinitely? And is there any deal underway to free hostages? Thank you.
Yes, no, working backwards, forward. Look, I have
Yes, no, working
been deeply
backwards.
involved in moving on the hostage negotiation. And I don't want to get ahead of myself here
Yeah.
because I don't know what's happened in the last 4 hours, but we've gotten great
Fucking Joe. Fucking Joe.
cooperation from the Qataris. I've spoken with them as well a number of times. I think the pause and that the Israelis have agreed to, it's down to, I'm getting too much detail. I know, Mr. Secretary, I'm going to stop.
Oh, you
but
give it
I am-
classified intelligence? You just
I
gave
am
it to the
mildly
Chinese. Why the hell can't you give it to us,
mildly
Joe?
hopeful. With regard to when is this going to stop? I think it's going to stop when when Hamas no longer maintains the capacity to murder and abuse and just do horrific things to the Israelis. And they still think that, at least as of this morning, they still thought they could. I guess the best way for me to say it is that I take a look. The IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, acknowledges they have an obligation to use as much caution as they can in going after their targets. It's not like they're rushing to the hospital, knocking down doors and, pulling people aside and
Pretty much,
shooting
yeah.
people indiscriminately.
Seems like what it is.
But Hamas, as I said they plan on attacking Israelis again. And this is a terrible dilemma. So what do you do? I think that Israel is also taking risks themselves about their folks being killed and one-to-one going through these hospital rooms, hospital
Design
halls.
questions to
But
make
one
them
thing
look
has been
like
established
he's
is that Hamas does have headquarters,
competent.
weapons, materiel below this hospital,
Maybe.
and I suspect others. But how long it's going to
Yeah, we
last, I
found
don't
out
know.
that wasn't
Look,
true, Joe.
I made it clear to the Israelis
Yep.
that to Bibi and to his war cabinet, that I think the only ultimate answer here is a two-state solution that's real. We got to get to the point where there is an ability to be able to even talk without worrying about whether or not we're just dealing with, they're dealing with Hamas that's going to engage in the same activities they did over the past, on the 7th. So but I can't tell, I'm not a fortune teller, I can't tell you how long it's going to last. But I can tell you, I don't think it ultimately ends until there's a two-state solution. I made it clear to the Israelis, I think it's a big mistake for them
Can you
to
tell
think
us
they're
anything,
gonna
Joe?
occupy Gaza and maintain Gaza. I don't think that works. And so I think you're going to see efforts to bring along, well, I shouldn't go into it anymore because that's been things I've been negotiating with Arab countries and others about what the next steps are. But
Yeah, I shouldn't tell you
anyway,
anymore because then I'd
thank
be
you all very
releasing
much.
national
Appreciate it
secret.
very much.
Thank you. This ends the press conference.
When
Uh-oh,
Hamas
Joey's
said
gonna
they
get in
plan
trouble.
on doing the same thing again, what they did on the 7th. They're going to go in, they want to slaughter Israelis. They want to do it again. And they've said it out loud. They're not kidding about it. They're not backing off.
Where's the handlers?
And
Stop
so
Joey
I
from
just
talking.
asked a rhetorical question. I wonder what we would do if that were the case.
On the hostages, though, you said we're coming for you. What do you mean to the American hostages when you said,
Oh.
hang tight, we're coming for you?
What I meant was I'm doing everything in my power to get you out. Coming to help you, to get you out. I don't mean sending military in to get them. Is that what you thought I might mean?
Holy shit.
No. I was not talking about the military. I was talking about you're on our mind every single day, 5, 6 times a day. I'm working
Holy
on
shit.
how I can be helpful.
I'm not going to send
in
anybody
getting
in
the
to get you. You
hostages
guys are
released
fucked. I
and
just want you to know
have a
we're thinking
period of
about you.
time
Kind of,
where there's a
maybe.
pause long enough to let that happen. And there's somewhere between 50 and 100 hostages there, we think.
This asshole is a traitor to the United States of
Darn right it
America.
is. That's why I'm
Fucking
not going to stop till
asshole.
we get her.
You're not going to stop what? Praying? Hoping? Sending messages? You guys are fucking asshat.
tell us what kind of evidence the U.S. has seen that Hamas has a command center under Al-Shifa Hospital?
No, I can't tell you. I won't tell you.
Do you feel absolutely confident based on what you know that
Yes.
that is the truth?
Yes.
He doesn't give a shit about the American people. Any asshole who votes for this guy again, find a new fucking country
Well, look,
because you don't
he is.
belong
I mean,
here.
He's a dictator in the sense that he is a guy who runs a country that is.
At least some of them can pretend. This guy just said it outright. Nah, fuck that. We're not going to help. We're just thinking about it, maybe. Yep, shuffle him out. Shuffle out Joe. Shuffle him out. That was a fucking train wreck. That was an absolute train wreck. This guy is disgusting. He's a disgrace to this nation and all those who fought and died and served to protect it. Nah, we're not going to send anybody to help you. We're just thinking about you. We might talk to these Arab nations. We don't really give a shit about you or anything that's going on with you. We just want you to know we're thinking about you with his little fucking wink. This guy pisses me off. Even if he wasn't, so I can get away, or I can get apart from our politics being different, because a lot of people have different politics than me. It'd be boring if we all agreed and we're all on the same page. But it's so much more than this right now. It's so much more than this. It is. They are systematically not caring about the America that we know and love. And they don't give a shit about the American people or anyone in it. All they care about is their unbridled power, their increasing millions in wealth, and all the ridiculous things that it's disgusting. It's disgusting to sit there and we do this spectacle for G, and we didn't get an agreement on that. The one thing that could have made a difference. Of course we didn't get an agreement on that. Well, he said maybe we'll stop fentanyl. Like, does anybody think that they're actually going to reduce the number of fentanyl? They're making way too much money and they're destroying the American people from the inside out. And that's the whole goal behind it. They don't have to fight a war if they can completely annihilate everything. Am I winning? No, I'm not winning. What's up, X-Comer? Thanks for the super, buddy. So this is insane. This is completely insane that Biden's going to sit here and he's a disgrace to this country anymore. He truly is. This is disgraceful. And I don't know how we stand by and continue to watch it. What was the point of this? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. We'll talk about some of the other stuff, but you should invite more Z more and get more cities cleaned up. Yeah, I mean, wouldn't be a bad idea. There's a couple of them we could clean up, but they're going to go back to being shit pretty soon, pretty quick. So don't get used to California being cleaned up or serviceable, or where people could actually stay and live. Like, just kind of, I don't know. That it's so infuriating, so absolutely infuriating to have an idiot like that just sitting there saying dumb shit, taking pre-screened questions from pre-screened reporters that they care about, and none of it was anything meaningful or anything that helped us in any way, shape, or form. It again is just wool over our eyes, and we just deal with it. And it's insane. It's insane how much of it we're going to deal with and how much of it we're going to continue to take. Because I'm good at this point. He does not in any way stand for American values or anything that the American people do. And how we continue to just take it is beyond me. It's beyond me. he very well could be the reason for the destruction of the United States. And I know that gets on the hyperbolic side of things, and I normally don't like hanging out there, but I don't think that's that crazy to say anymore. He doesn't give a shit about any of us. Not even remotely. Not even remotely. So what do we do from here? How do we, I mean, is there anything we can even do from here? Like, we're kind of, apparently 81 million people decided that they were going to vote for this asshole, so now we're stuck with him and we got to do what we can. I don't understand. I don't understand. That's not at all how I wanted to start the show or where I wanted to go with it. Like I said, that was just a circumstance of me running into it at the right time and or the wrong time, one or the other. But there was every intention to try to jump on that and catch that live. So a couple of the other things that Mr. Xi Jinping, he, as you know, was in San Francisco today. He met with Newsom. He met with President Biden. We saw him get off the plane, that kind of thing. I have no idea what the hell was going on. Like, I have no idea what I watched and listened and tried to take many things in. I have no idea what the shit this was all for. Like, I don't know. I don't know what this was all for. No clue what this was all for. And unless he was signing over the deed to the great US of A. But Jesus Christ. APEC meeting. Asian, I think it was Asian Pacific Economic Cooperation is what. So this is Xi coming in. It can't happen. We can't let it happen. Yeah. Bags of shit on the streets this weekend. Is that a Chinese version of an American 7.4? Yeah, we got another year, hopefully, for survive. Yeah. Mm-hmm. She came over to buy California. Probably. You think he made the deal? And here is Mr. Xi Jinping. I'm been looking for a press conference. If anybody saw one with Xi, toss it to me, boys and girls, because I haven't seen him speaking publicly. There's stuff like this where he, but
Ready, two, ready.
Pooh Bear, Winnie the Pooh Bear.
We're in, open the door, ready, doors, ready, pop.
Actually, we're gonna go over to this one because this one does have him speaking.
Ready, load, ready, gun, ready, base.
We have a slight break in the middle of it, but this one at least shows him speaking at least somewhat. Great camera work. Hayden asked me an exclusive question in my ear. How would you feel being that dipshit? The Marine Guard having to guard that dipshit. I would resign from my post immediately.
I value our
Fuck these
conversation.
guys. I'm so sick of this fucking government.
These have always been candid, straightforward, and useful.
Here's the
Never
only thing
doubted
that I
what
could
you've
find
told
of
me
them
in terms
having
of
any
your
kind of
candid
conversation.
in which you speak. I value our conversation because I think it's paramount that you and I understand each other clearly, leader to leader, with no misconceptions or miscommunication. We have to ensure that competition does not veer into conflict. And we also have to manage it responsibly, that competition. That's what the United States wants and what we intend to do. I also believe it's a world wants for both of us, candid exchange. We also have a responsibility to our people. And
No. Hang on. Let's go back. We'll play it from back here.
Ready, close. Ready, cut. Ready, face. Forward.
Further, that's as far as that one goes back. Yeah, that's as far as this one goes back, Elijah.
Ready, close. Ready, cut. Ready, face. Forward.
Yeah, I think the other one was a different camera angle. But yeah, he doesn't seem to have a shit ton of respect for our servicemen. It's just such an odd situation to have a hostile foreign power on American soil for a summit. That is just fucking odd. Yeah, there was a different one. I went to the Fox one because it has the dinner in it. So I'll grab that other one and we'll go back to it after we hear them speak, because this is the only place that I ever heard them speak collectively. So let's finish
These
this
have
and then we'll
always
go
been
back there.
candid, straightforward, and useful. Never doubted what you've told me in terms of your candid nature in which you speak. I value our conversation because I think it's paramount that you and I understand each other clearly, leader to leader, with no misconceptions or miscommunication. We have to ensure
You
that
think Winnie the Pooh
competition
bought
does not veer
cocaine
into
for
conflict.
Hunter?
And we also have
Your
to manage it
Chinese
responsibly, that
cocaine?
competition. That's what the United States wants and what we intend to do. I also believe it's a world wants for both of us, candid exchange. We also have a responsibility to our people and the work in the world to work together when we see it in our interest to do so. And a critical global challenges we face, from climate change to counter narcotics to artificial intelligence, demand our
Jig is
joint efforts.
one or
So I look
two
forward to
shits about
beginning
climate
this
change.
discussion.
No.
And I welcome you, and the floor is yours,
Think he
Mr. President.
cares
Again,
about your
welcome
climate
back.
change bullshit. Why is it so terrible? This is their
Mr. President, good morning.
like this is 720p. This is their camera. This is not. It looks the same on my
Coming
end.
here, I think of your trip to China when I was the vice president of China. We had a meeting. It was 12 years ago. I still remember our interactions very vividly, and it always gives me a lot of thoughts. Last time we met in Bali, you said it was a year and a day ago. A lot has happened since then. The world has emerged from the COVID pandemic,
Fox's camera. Fox News' camera.
but is still under
This
its
is on their end.
tremendous
This is what it looks
impacts.
like.
The global economy is recovering, but its momentum
Probably why you
remains
don't see anything
sluggish.
there.
Industrial and supply chains are still under the threat of interruption, and protectionism is rising. All these are grave problems. The China-US relationship, which is the most important bilateral relationship in the world, should be perceived and envisioned in a broad context of the accelerating global transformations unseen in a century. It should develop in a way that benefits our two peoples and fulfills our responsibility for human progress. China-US relationship has never been smooth sailing over the past 50 years or more, and it always faces problems of one kind or another. Yet it has kept moving forward amid twists and turns. For two large countries like China and the United States, turning their back on each other is not an option. It is unrealistic for one side to remodel the other, and conflict and confrontation has unbearable consequences for both sides. I'm still of the view that major country competition is not the prevailing trend of current times and cannot solve the problems facing China and the United States or the world at large. Planet Earth is big enough for the two countries to succeed, and
What's
one
that?
country's success is an opportunity for the other. It is an objective fact that China and the United States are different in history, culture, social system, and development path. However, as long as they respect each other, coexist in peace, and pursue win-win cooperation, they will be fully capable of rising above differences and find the right way for the two major countries to get along with each other. I believe in a promising future of the bilateral relationship. Mr. President, you and I, we are at the helm of China-US relations. We shoulder heavy responsibilities for the two peoples, for the world, and for history. I look forward to having an in-depth exchange of views and reaching new understandings with you on strategic and overarching issues critical to the direction of China-US relations and on major issues affecting world peace and development. I wish to thank you for your thoughtful arrangements for our meeting today and for our participation at the APEC meeting. Thank you.
And yet again, Joe looks like he's fucking lost. She is like, "Yep, made Joe my bitch." And Joe looks fucking lost. Looks lost.
All right.
Okay, so we'll go back to the car video real quick. This is the original car video that we watched. He did have to move, but oh shit, we're on YouTube. I can't make that joke. You know who the driver is. Like,
Doors. Ready. Pop.
you know who the driver is. These people are not traditionally great drivers. That's where I'll leave it.
Ready. Face. Forward.
And we don't know if it was a female either. Probably. He's just asking when he can sniff the kids. All right. So this is what was happening outside. So there was painstaking effort taken to make it beautiful and wonderful and everything outside. And that only went so far because there was still some tension and some clashes outside the meeting. I don't read Chinese, so I don't know what that says, but I'd imagine it's probably not something great.
Ready, pop. Ready, close. Ready, cut. Ready, face.
All right, so that was what was happening with President Biden, President Xi Jinping. I don't even know how long he was here. I assume he's probably already back. I just want to again point out how absolutely just mind-blowingly odd it is to have such a high-profile meeting with a hostile nation to the United States amid tension. Like, it's a weird look, and it always just boggles my mind how politicians are so aware of optics. Like, they base their whole candidacy and their whole decision-making process and everything on optics. And to have their whole system be optics and not get the optics of China Joe sold out and he's meeting with Xi Jinping. I think it's a bad look. I wouldn't encourage it. I don't think anything was gained from this. He said there was no groundbreaking agreements. There was nothing that was said to be wonderful or anything. Shit. Did you see Elon's tweet about ADL push de facto anti-white racism? No, I didn't. I'll look it up though. Just a second here. That's interesting. I know he's having some serious issues with the ADL. Don't actually know what all that stems from, but thanks for the super, buddy. Let's see. Elon Musk. Oh shit! I can type. Elon Musk. Can stop running. Oh, he was also dick to Nikki Haley. Here we go. Here's the tweet that Comer was talking about. And the risk of being repetitive, I'm deeply offended by the ADL's messaging and my other groups who push de facto anti-white racism or anti-Asian racism or racism of any kind. I'm sick of it. Stop now. It's an interesting take. It's an interesting take for sure. So, but, yeah, I know he's had something. He hasn't been a fan of ADL. ADL's been quite unfair to Elon, and Elon has been kind of taking shots at him. ADL is kind of run their course there. Like so many of the other agencies, all the agencies and all these think tanks and all this bullshit, they're all just part of the same team, and we're not on it. Again, it's just these elites and these advocates and these groups, they're all part of the same group, and we're not invited. We're not a part of it. And yes, Anti-Defamation League. So that is true. That is true. All right, so now we're going to get into a little bit more of the normal war news going on. And one thing that I think is incredibly fucking interesting. So we'll start with this one. So this was first reported, and it kind of went under the radar. In March 21st of 2023, colossal mushroom in the Dnieper. The Russians blew up an armored train. Leopard 2 from Poland reserves and mercenary base were hit. The explosion shocked the entire region of Ukraine. Ukraine's getting their ass kicked, and this is about the time when everything started to flip So there is a common theme or a common understanding due to some recent tests taken of the air quality over the United Kingdom and Great Britain, probably up your way too, XCOMer. They found some radioactive elements. Radioactive elements in the atmosphere from what we can assume was some kind of. So the Russians and some factions are saying that it was a they hit the what the hell are they called? Depleted uranium rounds that the United States and NATO sent over, which was around the same time, and Russia said they would hit those stockpiles. That could have been. There also some thought going around and some information going around that they could possibly have been a nuclear bomb, a small tactical nuke from Russia at that same time. So the explosions, there's two in question, and both explosions do not look like traditional explosions. That's an image of one, and they were pointed out at the time. So this is kind of a retrospective look, but at the time we just thought, oh, it just happened to be that's how it worked out. But it certainly could have been a tactical nuclear warhead from the nation of Russia. So a colossal mushroom of fire, and this is the original article again. So during Russian airstrikes, according to Russian reports, Western tanks and armored vehicles were hit. The videos confirm that Russia attack took place inside the train station. Russia launched an unprecedented attack on Friday night. The attack lasted several hours until Saturday morning. Local residents had reported from the first moment that something very big had hit, stressing that the explosion shaken the entire region oblast. The Russian offensive was mainly focused on the Dnepr and Dnipropetrovsk. Ukrainian reserves, weapons, and ammunition depots were hit. The Russians say the huge mushroom fire came from blowing up a warehouse and a train that had arrived in the settlement of Novomorsk and was loaded with Western armored vehicles, tanks, fuel, and other war materials. Watch the video of the mushroom. So, like I said, this is the original report, and we know that some of the stockpiles did have depleted uranium. That was part of the payload that was in the thing. That's why we began monitoring and really looking at the contents and what was kind of in the air, because of course depleted uranium is still radioactive. They actually use it because it's harder and it can penetrate deeper in tanks and shit like that. So that's part of the reason. But this is a concern. So they started taking air quality samples, stuff like that, and they actually found some radiation that would be consistent with the nuclear attack of some kind in the air over most of Europe, to include the United Kingdom. So I don't know. It doesn't. We're not talking about a SAR bomba. We're not talking about, 20, 30, 50, probably even 10 kilotons of warhead. We're talking something very small and tactical. Could be the reason the battle turned so damn quick, because Ukraine almost immediately resigned from what they were doing. And that's when you started seeing the war really turn and the tide really turn. How lethal? If it was nuclear, I mean, it would have killed everything even close. So if it was a small nuclear weapon from Russia, it would have been reported. It totally fits the narrative, and the caption media would be screaming. Not necessarily. If it was a small enough nuclear weapon, and that's why there's so much consternation around it right now, because that's not a conventional bomb. It doesn't look like a conventional bomb. There's way too much heat, way too much light off from it, and you get that traditional mushroom cloud. I mean, if we're talking a very small very small traditional nuclear bomb, then yeah, you could probably get one off without many people asking too many questions. Or if it was some kind of dirty bomb or um, something to that degree, yeah, I could see you getting away with it. Um, you wouldn't know, especially when stuff was getting shelled. Especially at that time, I think the United States was trying to, at least in part, hide the fact that they had depleted uranium. I don't think that they had brought out completely 100% that they were supplying the Ukraine with depleted uranium. So it would have been, and originally that was the thought, that a depleted uranium depot was hit, weapons depot, and that caused a nuclear like disaster. If it was small, yeah, I mean theoretically they could get away with it. So, especially in that kind of tension and time. You got to think that we also allegedly bombed the Nord Stream pipeline around this time as well. Probably right. I would have to look at the dates. I don't want to be inaccurate with that, but right around the same time, we certainly bombed the Nord Stream. So, so the timeline fits. There was retaliation, and we know our government lies like hell to us. So, there's my pro. You're welcome to argue in opposition, but that's my pro. It is so. So according to the latest information, attacks by Russian drones were recorded in regions of Kiev, Shmyr, Dnipropetrovsk, and Zaporizhia. There's reports that the Russians used false targets to mislead Ukrainian air defenses. The Russians hit weapons depot belonging to one of the formations of the Ukrainian National Guard, as well as 2 more targets in Dnipro that are related to activities of the headquarters of the Ukrainian security forces. Within hours, kamikaze drones destroyed critical Ukrainian infrastructure, as well as the settlement of Novomolsk. The area is an important railway hub that provides possibility of transporting fuel, weapons, equipment, and personnel of the Ukrainian army to the Donbass and Zaporizhia regions. Russians hit warehouse where military equipment was unloaded hours earlier, including possibly 2 Leopard tanks brought in from Western Ukraine. So they are disgustingly powerful, and it very well could have been just they could have had a minor critical mass from one of them. I mean, I guess that would be a possibility that they could have bombarded it enough for it to go critical. And we got a pseudo or a dirty bomb explosion of nuclear material like that. That certainly could have been the case. I'm not completely discounting that. But I don't know. You pop one tactical nuke. We're hearing all kinds of conversations about it. It was going around. The United States obviously retaliated. Russia didn't escalate past. So who the hell knows? Like it could be one or the other. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't made up my mind. It is interesting. I think the one thing that we're missing here is that there is radioactive material, and has been actually, over the UK and over several regions in the Europe area. So if you're in that area, take precautions. Obviously, I'm not a doctor, so I won't tell you anything to do. But yeah, it's a shame we can't believe our government any more than we believe the Russians. Yeah, and that's kind of the bullshit of it, is we don't know, but I can't trust the United States government. I don't trust the Russian government. So where does that leave me? I'm stuck in the middle, trying to decipher what the hell's going on, and what do you do at that point? So whose side do I take? What do I take away from this? So I think that's one of those interesting factors. So And I think, oh, there is, I think this is the same video. No, this one's the longer video. I knew there was a longer one, but I thought it was a different tab. So this is a little bit longer of the video. And obviously there's no volume on it, but I don't know. That didn't look convincing as a conventional weapon. Just just based on what I saw. I can't tell you. I don't know. I don't know. What do you take away from it when you never know the truth? It's hard to. It's hard to. Russia is just playing with Ukraine. People don't realize how to fight, and well, they actually do it. Right. Chernobyl's been pretty dormant for quite some time. So, hey, Shenny. Have a good night, Shenny. Yeah. Yeah, no worries. No worries. Uh, so what else is going on in Russia? So part of this is the United States is now saying, well, we're kind of done feeding you money. We're kind of done feeding you weapons. We're kind of done. We're certainly not sending our American troops to die. Like that's not about to happen. So there seems to be some willingness to start negotiations. Now, not to say that it's slowed down, and we'll see a lot of different information coming up that certainly that certainly supports the United States still being involved heavily in the conflict. However, at some point, we need to step away from it. There seems to be some push towards peace negotiations from every side, meaning the United States and Russia, except for Zelensky and his penis playing piano ways. Zelensky still has no interest whatsoever in communicating or any kind of negotiation, any kind of tactics at all whatsoever. So who knows? I think the best case scenario is that he totally gets screwed, and they have no other choice. But the United States is still amassing troops, but at the same time, for the first time, we're actually talking about peace. We're actually talking about some kind of resolution, and we're actually talking about Ukraine losing the war. We're starting to see the war hawks kind of back off. They have a new toy in Israel, so of course. And I mean, it could be a different front on a different. Could be a different thing on a different front. Like, hey, Ukraine's obviously a lost cause. Let's start with something else, and we'll get into that as well in just a minute here. But Russia's warning: unacceptable for Ukraine to join NATO in any form. Ukraine's joining of NATO military alliance, particularly in any form, is considered unacceptable for Moscow. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said today. Whether it's certain regions of Ukraine or in any other form, Ukraine's ascension to NATO is unacceptable for Russia. So that's basically the same thing. They're just gonna say it over and over. There's no way in hell Russia's gonna let Ukraine jump in and become part of NATO. That's just not gonna happen. Also, you have this statement: NATO admits it's difficult to help Ukraine, but it must not stop. So again, to the other side of that, there's no indication that they're ever going to stop, slow down, or remove anything that they're doing with Ukraine currently. So, NATO's Assistant Secretary General David Van Wiel admitted that the longer the military conflicts in Ukraine continue, the more difficult it is to provide military aid to Kiev. In statements to Japanese newspaper, Van Wiel agreed, however, that under no circumstances and despite the difficulties should the aid stop. So there you go. We're going to kind of get away from it, but at the same time, we're going to stay involved because we can't really get away from it. And this has always been the goal. There's so many different things that you can add to it. There's the proxy portion. It's a good training bed and ground for our soldiers, and soldiers around the world. It is a live conflict that they can get involved with. I mean, there are reasons why countries do this and stay engaged in these nothing meaningless wars for ridiculous amounts of time. So that's another thing that the United States will likely stay involved in as long as they're able to without giving up too much. And the Ukrainians have been nothing but cannon fodder this entire fucking war. Like the entire war, the Ukrainians have been nothing but cannon fodder. They have just been a willing participant in not doing anything. They've been happy to let Ukrainians die to advance their cause and their goals. So currently inspection outside DNC headquarters. I saw that. I was going to get to that in a minute. And here's more proof that the supply chain is still going through. The EU has so far sent more than 300,000 ammunition to Ukraine from the stockpiles of the member states. So obviously the United Nations, the European Union, NATO, all of them, they continue to send ammunition, rockets. We'll see a couple different ones. We're going to kind of burn through a couple of these because so here's another one. U.S. bought 60 Gepard systems from Jordan for Ukraine. So the United States is buying missile defense systems from foreign countries because we can't keep up with them. So U.S. bought 60 Gepard anti-aircraft systems from Jordan in order to deliver them to Ukraine. Jordan bought the anti-aircraft systems from the Netherlands for $21 million in 2013. U.S. acquired the Gepard for $110 million. Think about that fucking markup. Think about that markup. Good night, Digger. Sorry, I missed that probably earlier. No, that's never gonna happen. I know, right? Intermediary global products. So one hell of a markup, and we probably paid for them the first time around. So we're paying for them the first time. We're paying for them the second time. And hell, we'll probably pay for them a third time when Ukraine collapses. We'll buy them back as surplus. So it's just money laundering. It's just a constant, consistent money laundering scam that we're going to continue to push through over and over and over again. And again, it's another one of those things where it's really getting tiring and it's really getting frustrating. They probably use those Jordanian, Netherlands, U.S. missile defense to shoot down a Russian Su-25 in Advika 8th this month. They're so proud of themselves. That's Russia's 2-0. So that's cute. Another thing that's cute. This is what I was talking about with maybe they found a different set of people to really kind of engage and exacerbate this war. So there seems to be some Poland tensions here. Again, I'm not going to play favorites with a foreign nation like Russia. My name's not Joe Biden, but Russia's morning message to Poland: you have taken another step towards escalation. Kremlin spokesperson N. Peskov criticized Poland's decision to deploy a tank battalion on the border with Belarus, underlining that it is another step towards escalation. So here's what happened after everything went down the last time. There were some buffer zones and there were some territories held by the West and the Russians. Well, the West, meaning the United Nations, NATO, the United States, add name here, those were all continuously encroached on. We continue to encroach on the Russian territorial sovereignty to almost an insane degree. And we just continue to do it over and over and over again. So but so definitely another step towards escalating, nothing else. Peskov in a regular briefing to editors, commenting on the announcement by Polish Minister and National Defense Mariusz Blagacek, said on Saturday, the Belarusian authorities know what to do in such a situation to ensure the country's security. So they've been saying we can't let Russia keep going because next thing they're gonna do is they're gonna move into Poland. Well, they're starting to build and craft their narrative, in my opinion, and it looks like that could be the next hot point. Maybe they're moving on from Ukraine. Ukraine doesn't have support anymore, so now they have to say, "Oh, well, we have to protect Poland because we said that Russia would move past Ukraine and go into Poland," and blah blah blah. So that's my next point of escalation that I see is Poland's going to be that. And again, I don't trust my government to know that it wasn't set up or intended to be that way. So I think it's interesting timing. We're seeing the Ukraine thing kind of ramp down, and we're seeing Poland ramp up at literally the same exact time. So just something to look out for and keep an eye on as the Poland angle of things. Putin's response to Shell, the seizure of Russian property. Shell, the seizure of Russian property by the West. So, according to Russia on today, Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a decree giving Russians who have seen their assets frozen in the West a share of foreign assets that are currently blocked by Moscow. So Russia will respond to the West with the same currency. Westerners grab Russian assets. Russians will take Western assets as compensation. So it's going to get into a property grab. They're going to steal some of our shit because we stole their shit. Blah, blah, blah. Back and forth, back and forth. And it's going to get messy. It's going to continue to escalate because our oligarchs are not going to want to go quietly into the night and give up all the shit that they've taken time to acquire. So you're going to see a lot of back and forth in that venue. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see kind of what's going on there and what comes of this because of it. So, all right. U.S. preparing for war, simultaneous war with Russia and China. So there's a congressional proposal yesterday put out. The United States must prepare for the possible simultaneous wars with Russia and China by expanding its conventional forces, strengthening its alliances, and strengthening its nuclear weapons modernization program, a bipartisan congressionally appointed panel recommends. The Strategic Posture Committee. Doesn't that sound like some bullshit? The Strategic Posture Committee. That sounds like bureaucracy if I've ever heard it. But Strategic Posture Committee report was released amid tensions in the U.S. with China over Taiwan and other issues, and Russia over its invasion of Ukraine. A senior official involved in drafting the report declined to say whether the information gathered by the committee indicated that possible cooperation between China and Russia on the issue of nuclear weapons. So this is taking them together, and it's also taking them apart, as not only just conventional enemies, but we're talking about nuclear enemies. We saw what happened to our Minuteman the other day. Wasn't fantastic. So we have a long way to go with nuclear research and modernizing our fleets and all those sorts of things. I don't know where the hell they're getting all this from, or where anybody. It truly seems like nobody's taken the time to just step back and say, you know what, we should maybe just slow down a little bit. Nobody, there hasn't been a grown up in the room that says this is escalating far, far too quickly, and we need to slow it down and think about what the hell's going on, because we talk about not leaving a good world for our kids. Shit, we're to the point where we might not leave any world for our kids if it continues down this path. So, that's obviously something that we don't want to take part in. So we need to tell our leaders and push back on saying, stop this shit before we get into a nuclear war, because that's what it seems like all the powers that be are very interested in doing. The U.S. and its allies must be ready to deter and defeat both adversaries simultaneously. I don't think we could beat one right now. That's true. The U.S.-led international order and the values it represents are at risk from the authoritarian regimes of China and Russia. What about the authoritarian regime of America? Yeah, half of them are, and then the other half of them are hoping that they can make more war bucks. So pretty much everybody's running dick first for a major conflict. Excalibur. That's why it's escalating. It also addresses the 30-year nuclear weapons modernization program, which began in 2010 and is estimated in 2017 to cost $400 billion by 2046. Must be fully funded to upgrade all nuclear warheads, launch systems, and infrastructure. So that's going on. Our Congress is actively Here's another interesting thing with the Allies, and this will be our last thing on the Russia-Ukraine, and then we'll move on to the other conflict. The West is proceeding with Plan B to shake Russia from within. Plan B was activated. However, the West moved to implement Plan B to destabilize the situation in Russia, continues Pravda. So this is basically, we're putting out in the press and acknowledging that we're trying to actively destroy another country from the inside out. Not like the CIA has never done that, but oh, this one was funny too, and then we'll end the Russia part. To Zelensky, we need an army of AI-powered robots to defeat the Russians. You need to just give up, Zelensky. All right, so see, I want to get one of those graphics where it just like spins around and points to a different country. Like the globe spins around and points to a different country when we're going into a different conflict zone as transition. If anybody knows how the fuck to do that, let me know. But I don't. Anyways, moving on to the Middle East and Israel. Netanyahu's response to Erdogan. You support terrorists and bomb the Kurds. So there's a ton of rhetoric going on, lobbing back and forth. I don't know that anybody believes what the hell's going on. Seems to be just a rhetoric war. Rhetoric here, rhetoric there. A lot of propaganda. 'Tis the season for propaganda because the U.S. wants a war. So all that kind of stuff. So we'll go through these pretty quickly because we've been pretty in depth on the Russia-Ukraine war. These are Hamas weapons found in the Al-Sharif hospital. Operation continues. This one I'm not going to touch with the 10-foot pole. I've heard good arguments from both people. When it comes down to it, I really don't give a shit. I wish they'd stop killing each other, but I really don't care. There's going to be propaganda. There's going to be stories and bullshit on either side. I really don't want to get into the is there or is there not a Hamas base underneath the hospital. Because I don't know, and nobody's going to tell me the truth. So we'll hear third-hand accounts, and it will be just bullshit, and we'll be expected to kind of latch on and decipher what's actually true. If it was a hospital, it's detestable, and they should be punished. If it wasn't a hospital, then, or if it was a hospital that was housing military units, then that's also pretty shitty, and you probably deserve it. My stance on it, I don't know. I'm not going to take a strong stance. This was found in Desert's basement. I knew that would pull you out. Like I said, not going to get heavily involved in it, but you guys decide. There's allegedly some pictures from the hospital. Khomeini snaps at Hania. Stop asking Iran and Hezbollah to go to war. That's probably the best thing that we've heard is stop asking us to go to war because we're not going to sacrifice things. That shows some restraint. Tehran had no intention of joining the war on the side of Hamas. Iran's Supreme Leader Al Khamenei made it clear to the head of Hamas's political bureau earlier this month, since the Palestinian organization did not inform him in advance for the October 7th attacks in Israel. Again, not a fan of any fucking government at this point, to be honest, but not a fan of Iran. Could be right, wrong, I don't know. But it's kind of neat to see that they could be the cooler heads that prevail. And maybe it's just not the war for them. Maybe I'm misreading what they're actually saying. But he's the only one saying, yeah, we're not jumping in. So, and that could be a misdirection as well. But I think it's good to start seeing more leaders. I'd rather see more than less leaders jumping out and saying, yeah, we don't really want to do this. We're not going to send troops. We're not going to fight. We're not going to get involved. This is kind of your deal. And the U.S. should follow suit and stay the fuck out of it. You know? Just my opinion. But they won't. USS Thomas Hudner down drone from Yemen. Houthis mark U.S. ship in Eritrea. So they're going to continue to provoke. The United States is going to continue getting on the bus, and it's going to continue to escalate. So now, like I said earlier, it's been pretty evident that the United States was doing some weird shit and was probably going to leave a ship vulnerable so somebody could sink it. I thought it was their older generation aircraft carrier, but who knows? This might be the one we're talking about. Not talking about flags that are incorrect, but could be. I'm just an asshole on the internet, remember? But and there's countless stories like this. This is just today. These are all from today. Allegedly, the Israeli army blew up the Hamas parliament in Gaza today. Looks like they certainly did. Looks like they certainly did. They kind of seem to be indiscriminately bombing everything, which is kind of how they've done it for a long time. There's actually a lot more on Ukraine today than there is Israel. Israel's been relatively quiet. So, I did miss one other. I missed one other on the that I wanted to bring up from the Ukrainian section. French secretly trained Ukrainian soldiers throwing dead animals at them to get them used to the smell of death. I mean, that's important to get used to the smell of death when everybody's fucking dying around you because you're in a war you can't win. So I forgot about that one. But here's the same thing we saw from Zelensky, same playbook, played over again. Apparently they did. Yep. Netanyahu, the U.S., the war with Hamas is not just ours. If we don't win, you'll be next. Not if we don't fuck around. Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu argued during an interview he gave to CNN television network. Well, let's just listen to him say it himself. Oh shit. Same exact script. We'll watch as much of this as we can stand.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Sir, thank you so much for joining me. And let's start with what's happening at that hospital. Israeli forces have said that they are engaged in intense fighting around Al-Shifa Hospital, the largest medical facility in Gaza. I know that you say that the hospital sits on top of a Hamas command and control center, but of course there are also patients, civilians sheltering in that complex getting treatment. So how do you intend to go after Hamas without putting sick and injured civilians in that hospital at more risk than they already are?
Well, we've called to evacuate all the patients from that hospital. And in fact, 100 or so have already been evacuated. I've called for field hospitals. The French president has sent a floating.
I don't watch CNN that often, but watching them lick
send a
Israel's boots is pretty.
And other countries have done the same.
Pretty.
I expect the UN to build this.
Disgusting.
So there's no reason why we just can't take the patients out of there instead of letting Hamas use it as a command center for
just the way the question was posed was, I thought, very poor.
For the terror tunnels that they use to kill Israeli civilians.
I mean, I know CNN's not a bastion of great journalism.
Imagine what would happen.
Just
if
saying.
The United States were attacked.
They're making it look very obvious.
By 29/11s, 20. That's the proportionate number. 50,000 Americans.
29/11.
10,000 Americans held hostage, including babies, elderly, women, children. 10,000 rockets falling on your.
You should break that one. That's not good for you, Gomer.
All the time on our cities may fall during this interview, in fact, and we'll have to go to a shelter. That's what's happening. So what would America do? It would take all its force and go after these killers. And what if?
Yeah, but we wouldn't ask for yours, dude. We wouldn't ask for yours.
You do everything in your power to get the civilians out, which is what we're doing. We call them to leave, but you certainly wouldn't give immunity to the terrorists. So we're obviously treading carefully when it comes to hospitals, but we're also not going to give immunity to the terrorists. And so far, even though Hamas has tried to prevent the civilians from leaving, hundreds of thousands have left, sometimes having to go through Hamas gunpoints and gunfire
just to be clear,
to keep them in harm's way.
Just to be clear, sir, Israel will help these civilians who are quite sick and inside these hospitals come out, not just in Al-Shifa, but there are other hospitals where this is happening.
Yes, we're telling them to leave. And
telling them or helping them?
Helping them by creating safe corridors. So we have designated routes to a safe zone south of Gaza City where there's no fighting. And we're telling them, go ahead, move. And by the way, 70,000 have moved 3 days ago. I think 50,000.
Yeah, fuck it. Just go ahead and move. Move your whole life. It's fine.
We want all the civilians to be removed out of harm's way. And Hamas is doing everything in their power to keep them in harm's way. They put missiles below. Yes, go ahead.
Do you believe that there are hostages below that hospital? Israeli or American hostages?
Well, I'm not going to go into the intelligence picture we have, but there's been this vicious thing. They take hostages. Imagine a baby is held hostage. Who takes a baby hostage? I don't know if you have children down. I'm sure your camera crew has, and we all have children. What is this taking children hostages?
Video I saw showing the weapons on the hospital was done by a CNN reporter who said he went in with the IDF.
Everything in
of
our
course.
power to achieve two things. One, destroy Hamas, because without it, none of us have a future. And it's not only our war, it's your war too. It's the battle of civilization against barbarism. And if we don't win here, this scourge
course.
will pass. The Middle East will pass to other places.
Yeah.
Middle East will fall. Europe is next. You'll be next. But it's the first goal is to destroy Hamas, and the second goal is to bring back our hostages. We're trying to do both.
Yeah. So those are completely understandable goals that the United States very much supports. Understanding that Hamas is a barbaric terrorist organization, but Israel is not Hamas. And the United States also makes very clear that democracies have to do better. The Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, said that far too many Palestinian civilians have been killed. What is your response to that?
I think any civilian loss is a tragedy, and the blame should be placed squarely on Hamas because it prevents them from leaving the war zone, sometimes at gunpoint. It fired on the safe zone and the safe corridor that we enacted the other day to prevent Palestinians from leaving harm's way. It puts rockets inside schools, hospitals. It has tunnels below children's beds. I mean, this is what we're dealing with.
Absolutely.
So obviously we can't give them immunity.
But because Israel isn't Hamas, is Israel doing everything possible to take that into consideration?
Yes, yes, and more than that. And more than that, we're trying to minimize civilian casualties. As a result of our ground action, I think the number of civilian casualties is actually being reduced because people are heeding our calls to leave the area and defying Hamas's attempt to keep them there. And we'll do everything in our power to do that. But, you know, the one example I could give you is this. Look, these savages, they perpetrated the worst horrors on Jews since the Holocaust. The German Chancellor Scholz called them the new Nazis.
Okay, I can't anymore. Blah blah blah. Give us more money. Send us your kids. Kill more people because it will all work out. Moving on. Disclosure from the RAF provides air support or air surveillance support to Israel from Cyprus. A total of 12 aircraft have been deployed in the Eastern Mediterranean. RAF is providing aerial surveillance support to Israel in its ongoing operation against Hamas Islamists in Gaza. Answering questions in the House of Commons, Secretary of State for the Armed Forces James Happy said aircraft have been deployed to the region to support Israel and address wider UK safety concerns. So there's yet another country that's getting involved but doesn't actually get involved. Eventually some country is not going to let that happen. So, and shouldn't. This one pissed me off probably the most. Douglas McGregor, U.S. soldiers entered Gaza. Some of them were killed. Former Trump advisor and retired Colonel Douglas McGregor says he learned from reliable sources that the U.S. deployed troops to Gaza, including casualties in an allegation that puts fire in an already hot region, the Middle East. You know, we had losses in Ukraine, we lost people, and they didn't tell us anything about it. It was suppressed and kept a secret, and the media helped the government a lot in that. So that was obviously a recent interview with Tucker Carlson. Take it for what you think, but we'll watch quick the 30 seconds here.
Right now, 2,000 Marines and perhaps 2,000 Special Forces and Special Operations Forces. That's not going to make much of a dent. And as we've seen quite recently within the last 24 hours or so, some of our Special Ops Forces
They'll sit on the
Israeli
sideline.
Special Ops Forces went into Gaza to reconnoiter, to plan for where they might want to go to free hostages and make an impact. And they were shot to pieces and took heavy losses, as I understand it.
All right, so you heard it out of his mouth. They were shot to pieces and suffered heavy losses. I don't doubt it. I wish it weren't true, but I don't doubt it. So that's also going on in the Middle East. So that's going to wrap up the Middle East. Like I said, it's been relatively quiet, actually. It's been relatively quiet in the Middle East. We have one more hotspot in the world. For real. I need one of those fucking globes that just spins and like highlights a country so I can be like, next up, we have blah blah blah, and just enter the country. Like that would be kick ass. If anybody knows how to do that, hook a brother up. But so I'm looking at the flight board, see if there's anything interesting before we head out, because we have one more hotspot that just popped up not too long ago. This one's very interesting. There is not much out there about it. I'm going to do a hell of a lot more research, and for next week's update, there will certainly be a lot more to comment and bring to attention with this specific conflict. But in Spain, the nation of Spain, there seems to be significant outpouring. There's serious and legitimate concerns of an uprising, of an overthrow of the government. So we're talking about that kind of seriousness, and there seems to be several factors, but a lot of them has been well, I mean, quiet in the crazy news sense. Like, yeah, they're continuing to kill each other, but yeah, there hasn't been much propaganda. The propaganda machine took the day off. So this is Spain, and this comes from Sky News Australia. So pardon the guy's voice; he sounds Australian. But chaos in Madrid. So this seems to be flaring up, and like I said, I'll give more information, but it seems incredibly serious, coupled with the fact that nobody wants to report on it, which is always concerning. But and I guess you say, oh, it's just like what's going on. What's been going on in France and Germany and all across the board. But this one seems to be. It seems to have something behind it. Exactly. Talk about a heavy-handed law enforcement presence. Right. All right. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez's Socialist Party secured a controversial deal with Carlos Puigdemont's Catalan separatist party, allowing them to form government and stay in power. So that's what I said. There's about 3 different actual reports of what the hell's going on over there. I just haven't had enough time to decipher what's actually going on over there. So I'll get more information and certainly bring it up next week. But this looks like it could be a hot point internally. It looks like there could be some significant and severe consequences. So, but ladies and gentlemen, with all that being said, the world's a fucking mess. Take care of yourself. Take care of your fellow brother and sister. And if you're gonna fucking hate somebody, have a damn good reason to do it, because we need to stop. And it needs to stop now. There's been too much of it. And the world is at the most tense spot I think I've ever seen it. No worries. Yeah, things seems to be getting more and more of a mess. And I'm getting legitimately concerned about it all. So, somewhere, somehow, somebody's going to take America's invitation for a conflict, and somewhere, somehow, somebody's going to bite off more than they can chew, and then we're going to be in for a bad spot. Tensions are heating up all over the world. The U.S. is talking about going multi-front, which is always fun. And it'll probably end in the destruction of the United States. What might be the actual mission behind the whole thing? Yeah, about how to sell and subdivide America. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, first off, tomorrow is going to be news roundup. So typical Thursday news roundup on Friday morning. Special guest Nucleatic Gaming, mostly Black Brian, is going to be joining me for the launch attempt number 2 of Starship from Boca, Texas. They got approval this afternoon. They are go for launch. As of now, rocket's ready, approval's ready, everybody's ready, I'm ready. So we'll cover the whole thing in depth and detail. And it's looking at a 2-hour window that has not been confirmed yet, but as soon as it is, I'll throw up the information. It's not going to be a point launch like we've been seeing with the Falcon 9 rockets. It will not be a T-minus of 10:52 a.m. It's going to be a window, and they'll go when they're ready. So, but with that being said, I thank you all for watching. Please hit that like on the way out. Thank you so much for the super chats and memberships. Always appreciated. And I will catch you all very, very soon. That's the big one. Yes, sir. It is the big one. Starship and Super Heavy. So, thanks everybody, and I will talk to you guys all later. Have a good night. Maybe if I can find my... There we go. Have a good night, y'all.